welcome to the program. This is Vivica Williams, and you're watching Head to Head. Ukraine has been making headway in improving its investment and business climate. But when it comes right down to it, it's the organizations and people who are leading the technological and startup revolution that's attracting investment and growth. To talk about this today is Olga Afanasyeva, Executive Director of Ukrainian Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. Thank you so much for joining us today, Olga.
Thank you for having me, Vivica.
So let's start right off. What is the role of the UVCA in helping with investment in Ukraine?
The idea of creating UVCA was the connection of investors who do invest in companies from Ukraine, and to protect their rights, because when we were founded 3 years ago, there was a situation with Crimea in our country. So we decided that it is important to unite all the investment funds and to protect their rights ourselves. And since then, we understood that Ukrainian startup ecosystem doesn't have too much support from the government. So basically, this is our role, and we're trying to push this, to develop a startup ecosystem to promote innovative entrepreneurship in Ukraine as well.
So what you do is you are a connector between investors and the startups and the innovators that need to be connected.
Not really. We are connectors between investors and investors. And for startups, what we do is not helping like certain companies separately, but to develop the ecosystem, to try to push this movement. What is basically we do.
Right. So then, if we talk about investors, what do investors look for in an early startup?
Well, they look for a great idea. Of course, this is important, for a great product. With potential, which would be scalable on the global market. As well, they are looking for a good team, for a strong team of people who are dedicated to what they do, and that can really implement what they are planning. Because idea was nothing, as our investors say. It's all about people.
Right. It's about the implementation of it.
Exactly.
So then what are some of the leading entrepreneurs and innovators you're seeing here in Ukraine? So for some of the companies, what are some of the companies that you see or that you've seen recently that really impress you as some of the leading entrepreneurs and innovators here?
Well, Ukrainian investment market, not Ukrainian, Ukrainian startup scene is quite...
1 second. We'll start.
Okay.
Pause.
Ukrainian startup scene is quite young, but still we have already some success stories, like PetCube, like some other companies which are working not only in Ukraine but in San Francisco, where basically they move the management team usually there. So there are plenty of examples. I'm afraid to name many of them because you will not stop me.
So it's a really great innovative field right now. And how are you working to connect these investors? What kind of programs or opportunities do you provide?
Well, during the last 2 years, while I'm working in UVCA, I'm trying to put Ukraine as the country where investors can invest their capital, and that is very prospective. So I try to connect our country with foreign investment ecosystem, with European ones, with American, Japan, and so on. So basically, we work through the association like ours, based in other countries. We are also the member of European Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, which is Invest Europe. This is like an umbrella organization for all of private capital organizations like UVCA. We also organize different events to acquaint investors with each other. Ukrainian investment market is kind of not very big, but still people don't know each other. Like they maybe have seen some of them on Facebook or read the interviews, but they are not connected that much. So we try to fill in this gap.
And to how do you overcome some of this hesitancy that, of course, that potential investors from Europe, the U.S., and other places may have about investing in Ukraine, or some of these myths that they have or that they believe?
I believe that this is well, almost in every case, this is about the people's relations. So just communicating, just talking to people, explaining, yes, well, we know that there is perception towards Ukraine in the foreign media and so on, but still we have this benefits. And well, there are more than 40 investors that do invest in Ukraine, and you can come to see yourself and join this company.
Oh, wonderful. And so how are you communicating about the business environment? And personally, or in the opinion of UVCA, how is the business environment here in Ukraine?
Well, definitely there are certain issues that all we are trying to overcome. There is no government support for private capital investments, no government support for innovative business, but still we have potential. And first of all, the most important thing is people, as we already figured out. So there are plenty of people who has talents, who has great ideas, who has abilities to implement, and they do implement, they show the product. Also, well, investing in IT is kind of easier than investing in plants or factories, because basically it exists in the cloud. And so it is not very linked to the country itself.
Right. It doesn't require this type of brick and mortar type of situation. So
yes, exactly. This is what we try to communicate. And very interesting, when people come to Ukraine for the first time, they fell in love not only with well, something that we do know they love in Ukraine, but they also are in love with the talents that we have, with this engineering skills of people, with the potential that is visible from the first and second side. But that's why we organize the road shows of foreign investors and entrepreneurs to Ukraine as well.
Oh, wonderful. And if you could speak about, let's talk a bit about the Ukrainian-Canada free trade agreement. Could you speak about anything with that and how you're seeing that's going to change the way investors find Ukrainian businesses and vice versa in Canada?
Yeah. Which is good, that we already have good connections with Canada, because the diaspora of people from Ukraine is huge over there.
Right, absolutely.
Yes, when I was there on the Ukraine-Canada Business Forum last year, I was really impressed how often I've heard Ukrainian language on the streets. So we already do have this connection, and I'm sure that free trade agreement between our countries will only make it easier, much more easier. And well, for IT services, it's also important. And I'm seeing that since the last year, many companies and many startups as well are looking thoroughly to Canada, to Canadian market, and already do some sales over there or joining accelerators.
So it's taking off, and as we know, it is an excellent opportunity. So what are some of the biggest mistakes then that startups and businesses make when they're looking for investors?
Well, very important is the correct communication. Startups should remember that investors are also people, and they would like to have the same attitude to them as to other people as well. So if you want to find an investor, you can use actually the Who is Who on Ukrainian investment market, this investor's book that we published recently. It has the free access in the internet, so it's easily to find it and to find the investor that is focused exactly on your type of business, and also on the geography that you are working in, and that this fund, you should be also sure that this fund invests on the stage that you are at. So don't send your presentations to everyone, because it will just go to spam and nobody will pay attention to you. You can also visit the profile events, workshops, conferences. There are plenty of them in Kyiv.
Right, so it's all about networking in a lot of ways.
It's all about relations between people. It's all about communication. Try to find something that is very specific and very interesting in your product, and speak about it. Well, we all know about the elevator pitch, 30 seconds. You should be able to speak about your product, about your excellency in a very short period of time to catch your attention.
Thank you so much for this great advice and for this insight into how innovators and entrepreneurs are working today and this investment that's going on.
Thank you.
Today, we were speaking with Olga Afanasyeva, the Executive Director of the Ukrainian Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. Thanks for watching.